I always thought I had Kyle figured out. Like, completely. The kind of guy who flirted with every girl at a party, who had a different name popping up on his phone every week, who casually mentioned hookups like it was just normal conversation. The kind of guy you don't question. Straight, confident, untouchable. So yeah, when he did what he did that night, it didn't just surprise me. It messed with my head in a way I still haven't fully recovered from. Started out pretty normal, which is probably why I didn't see it coming. Kyle and I had known each other for about a year. We met through mutual friends at the gym and somehow ended up becoming not best friends, but close enough that we'd hang out a few times a week. Late night drives, dumb fast food runs, complaining about work stuff like that. He was easy to be around. Loud when he wanted to be, quiet when it mattered. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice him. Everyone noticed him. Tall, broad shoulders, that messy dark hair that somehow always looked intentional. The kind of guy who didn't have to try too hard, and knew it. But again straight, so I kept everything where it belonged. Locked down, out of sight, just another thought I ignored. That night, we were at his place. Nothing special. Just beer, some random show playing in the background. Both of us half paying attention. "You're not even watching this," Kyle said, tossing a chip at me. "I am," I replied, not looking away from my phone. "You've been on Instagram for 10 minutes. Multitasking." He snorted, shifting on the couch so his leg bumped into mine. Normally I would have moved. That was kind of our unspoken rule, don't make things weird. But I didn't, and neither did he. It was small, probably nothing. Still, I noticed. "Stay over," he said later, like it was the most casual thing in the world. I looked up. "What?" "It's late. And you've been drinking." He shrugged. "Crash here." I hesitated. Not because it was weird, we'd done it before. Couch, extra blanket, whatever. But something about the way he said it felt different. "I'll take the couch," I said. Kyle made a face. "Dude, don't be dramatic. My bed's big enough." That should have been my first warning sign. But instead I laughed. "Yeah? You sure you won't fall in love with me?" He smirked. And for a split second, just a split second, his expression shifted into something I couldn't read. "I think I'll survive," he said. We got ready for bed like it was nothing. Brushed teeth, turned off lights, same routine. But when I got into his bed, everything felt louder somehow. The silence, the space between us. He was on his back, one arm behind his head, staring at the ceiling like he always did before falling asleep. I turned onto my side, facing away from him. "Night," I muttered. "Night, Austin." That was it. At least that's what I thought. I don't know how long I slept. Could have been an hour, maybe 2. But I woke up suddenly, like something had pulled me out of it. At first, I didn't move, just laid there trying to figure out what felt off. And then I realized. Kyle was closer, way closer. His body was pressed lightly against my back, not fully, but enough that I could feel the heat of him through the thin fabric of my shirt. My heart started beating faster immediately. I told myself it was nothing. People move in their sleep. It happens. But then, his arm shifted, slowly, deliberately, sliding across my side. Not tight, not forceful, just there, resting, like he knew exactly what he was doing. I froze. Every instinct in me said to move, to say something, to laugh it off maybe, but I didn't, because something about it didn't feel like an accident. It felt intentional. And the worst part? I didn't want it to stop. I swallowed, staring into the darkness, trying to steady my breathing. "Kyle?" I said quietly. For a second, nothing. Then, "Yeah." His voice wasn't sleepy, not even close. I felt something twist in my chest. "You're really close," I said. There was a pause, a long one, and then I felt his fingers shift slightly against my side. Not pulling away, just adjusting, like he was getting more comfortable. "I know," he said. Simple, calm, too calm. That's when I turned around. Slowly, carefully, and the second I faced him, everything changed. Because Kyle wasn't half asleep. He wasn't confused. He was looking straight at me, wide awake, and there was something in his eyes I had never seen before, something that made my stomach drop, and my pulse spike at the same time. "You're not sleeping," I said. He shook his head slightly. "No." Another pause. Heavy. Thick. Like the air between us had weight now. "You've been awake this whole time?" I asked. Cal didn't answer right away. His gaze flicked down for just a second, then back up to mine. And when he finally spoke, his voice was lower than I'd ever heard it before. "Yeah." I should have laughed. Made a joke. Broke the tension. That's what we always did. But I couldn't, because nothing about this felt like a joke anymore. And the way he was looking at me, it didn't feel straight. "You gonna tell me what you're doing?" I asked, my voice quieter now. Cal exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding something back. Then he shifted even closer, close enough that I could feel his breath. "I don't know," he admitted. And somehow, that answer was worse than anything else he could have said, because it meant this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a joke. And whatever was happening between us, it had already started. And neither of us knew where it was going to end. I should have moved. That's the first thing I thought later, replaying it over and over in my head. I should have rolled over, laughed it off, said something stupid like, "Bro, what the hell?" and killed whatever that moment was before it got out of control. But I didn't. I stayed there, right in front of him, close enough to feel his breath, close enough to notice the way his eyes kept flicking down to my lips like he was thinking about something he wasn't ready to say out loud. And yeah, that did something to me. "You don't know?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Cal shook his head again, slower this time. "No." It didn't sound unsure. It sounded like he knew, but didn't want to admit it yet. "There's a difference." "Then why are you—" I didn't finish the sentence, because his hand moved again. Not sudden, not aggressive, just sliding slightly higher from my side, stopping right at my waist. And staying there. My breath hitched before I could stop it. Cal noticed. Of course he did. His jaw tightened just a little, like that reaction meant more to him than he expected. "Tell me to stop," he said quietly. That caught me off guard. "What?" "Just tell me to stop, Austin," he repeated, his voice steady, but there was something under it now, something tense. "And I will." I stared at him, because that wasn't what I expected. Not even close. If this was some joke, some weird drunk mistake, he wouldn't be saying that. This felt real. Too real. I should have said it. That would have been the smart thing, the safe thing. But instead I asked, "Do you want to?" And the second the words left my mouth, I felt my chest tighten. Because now there was no going back. Cal didn't answer right away. His eyes locked on mine, searching, like he was trying to figure out if I was serious, if this was real. "Yeah," he said finally. One word. But it landed hard. Something shifted between us, like we both crossed a line at the exact same time. No jokes, no pretending, just truth. His hand didn't move away. If anything, it settled more firmly at my waist, his fingers pressing just slightly into the fabric of my shirt. Not enough to hurt, just enough to feel. And my body reacted instantly. Tension, awareness, heat, all at once. "This is a bad idea," I muttered, even though I wasn't moving away. Kyle let out a quiet breath. "Probably." Neither of us did anything to stop it. There was a moment, just a few seconds, where we stayed like that, looking at each other, waiting, like whoever moved first would decide everything. It was him. Of course it was. Kyle shifted closer, slow enough that I could have pulled away if I wanted to. I didn't. Our foreheads almost brushed for a second, his nose barely grazing mine as he paused, giving me time. One last out. "You sure?" he asked, quieter now. And I knew what he meant. Not just this moment. Everything. What it could turn into. What it could ruin. I nodded. Yeah. That was all it took. The second I did, something in him snapped. Not in a bad way. Just like he stopped holding back. His hand tightened slightly at my waist, pulling me just enough that there was no space left between us. And then, he kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't messy. If anything, it was careful. Like he'd been thinking about it longer than he should have. Like he didn't want to mess it up. And that hit me harder than anything else. Because Kyle didn't do careful. Kyle didn't hesitate. Kyle didn't overthink. But right now, he was. And it meant this wasn't random. It wasn't just curiosity. It meant he wanted this. I kissed him back before I could second guess it. And the second I did, I felt the shift. The hesitation disappeared. His grip tightened, pulling me closer, his other hand coming up to my shoulder like he needed something to hold on to. The kiss deepened, still not rough, but definitely not unsure anymore. And my brain just stopped working. Everything else faded. The room, the time, the fact that this was Kyle's straight Kyle and none of this was supposed to be happening. All of it just disappeared. All that mattered was this. The way he moved against me. The way his breathing got heavier. The way every small movement felt like it meant something. After a few seconds, maybe longer, he pulled back slightly. Not far. Just enough to look at me again. And his expression. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't panic. It was something way more dangerous. "Okay," he said under his breath, like he'd just confirmed something to himself. "What?" I asked, still trying to catch my breath. Kyle let out a quiet, almost disbelieving laugh. "Yeah, I definitely shouldn't have waited this long." That made my stomach drop. "Waited," I repeated. He looked at me like he hadn't meant to say that out loud. But it was too late now. "Yeah," he said again, softer this time. And the way he said it told me everything. This wasn't new for him. Not the feeling. Just the moment. And suddenly, I wasn't the only one who'd been hiding something. "Since when?" I asked. Kyle hesitated. And for the first time since this started, he actually looked nervous. "That's the problem," he admitted. A pause. Then, "Long enough that it's probably not just a phase." Yeah. That's when I realized this wasn't just one night. And whatever was happening between us, it was about to get a lot more complicated. I didn't expect that answer. Not from him. Not from Kyle, the same guy who used to point out girls at parties, who once spent 10 minutes arguing why he'd never even think about guys like that. And now he was lying inches away from me, breathing heavier than normal, looking at me like this had been building up for a while. "Long enough," I repeated, my voice slower now, more careful. Kyle ran a hand through his hair, something I'd seen him do 100 times before. But this time it wasn't casual. It was nervous. "Yeah," he said, exhaling. "I just didn't plan on doing anything about it." I let out a quiet, almost disbelieving laugh. "Yeah, no kidding." That earned me a small smirk, but it didn't last. "Why me?" I asked. I didn't even try to make it sound like a joke. I needed to know. Kyle's expression shifted again. More serious now. "Because it's you," he said, like that explained everything. "Didn't. That's not an answer." He looked at me for a second, like he was deciding how honest to be. Then he sighed. "You're easy to be around," he started. "You don't push, you don't expect anything. You just are." I stayed quiet. "Most people," he continued, "they want something from you. Attention, validation, whatever. You don't." "That's because I assumed you were straight," I said dryly. He huffed out a quiet laugh. "Yeah, that probably helped." There was a pause. And then, "I noticed you, though," he added. That hit harder than I expected. "When?" I asked. Kyle's eyes flicked away for a second, then back. "First couple months," he admitted. "Didn't think much of it at first. Just thought you were, I don't know, good-looking, I guess." My chest tightened slightly. "Just that." He gave me a look. "No," I swallowed, because now this was real. Too real. "It got worse," he went on, quieter now. "Like, I catch myself thinking about you at random times. At the gym when we weren't even talking. Or when you'd text me something stupid and I'd reread it like 5 times for no reason." I blinked. "You're serious?" Kyle nodded. "Yeah." I didn't know what to say to that, because part of me felt relieved, and another part felt like I'd completely misread everything this whole time. "So what, you just ignored it?" I asked. "Pretty much," he said. Figured it'd pass. And it didn't. He shook his head slowly. No. Silence settled between us again. But it wasn't awkward. Just heavy. Full. And tonight? I asked after a second. Kyle let out a breath, glancing up at the ceiling like he was replaying it. I don't know, he admitted. You were just there. Close. And I kept thinking about it. About what? He looked back at me. This. My heart skipped. I wasn't even asleep, he added. I just didn't move. That explained a lot. Too much, actually. So when you got closer, I didn't stop you, he finished for me. We held each other's gaze for a second. And yeah, that moment, that was the real turning point. Not the kiss. Not the touch. The honesty. You could have said something, I said quietly. Kyle shook his head. And risk you pulling away? Acting weird? Pretending it didn't happen? He asked. No thanks. I frowned slightly. You really think I would have done that? He didn't answer right away, but the look on his face said enough. I didn't know, he admitted. Didn't know if you'd freak out or just disappear. That stung more than I expected. I wouldn't have disappeared, I said. Kyle studied my face. Yeah? He asked. Yeah. Another pause. Then, good, he said softer now. We stayed like that for a second, just looking at each other. No rush, no pressure. And then his hand moved again, this time slower, more intentional, sliding from my waist, up along my side just slightly enough to make my breath catch again. Not crossing any line, just testing. You okay? He asked quietly. I nodded. Yeah. But my voice didn't sound as steady as I wanted it to. And he noticed. Of course he did. Kyle's thumb brushed lightly against my side. Absent-minded almost. But it wasn't. Nothing about this was accidental anymore. You're not pulling away, he said. It wasn't a question. No, I admitted. And that felt bigger than it should have. His gaze dropped again, just for a second. Then back to mine. You want me to? He asked. I shook my head. No. That was all the confirmation he needed. He leaned in again, slower this time, no hesitation, and when he kissed me again, felt different, less careful, more certain, like whatever doubt he had before, it was gone now, and the way his hand tightened slightly against my side, the way he shifted closer like he didn't want any space left between us, that wasn't curiosity anymore, that was want. And the craziest part? I wanted it too, way more than I was ready to admit. That second kiss changed everything. The first one, you could maybe explain it away. Curiosity, a mistake, a weird late-night lapse in judgment. But this wasn't that. Kyle didn't hesitate anymore. There was no pause, no checking in between movements like before. His hand stayed firm at my side, pulling me closer like he didn't want even an inch of space between us. And I let him. That was the part that hit me later. I didn't just allow it, I leaned into it. My hand found his arm without me even thinking about it, fingers tightening slightly against his skin. He reacted immediately, a sharp inhale, like that small touch meant more than it should have. Okay, he muttered quietly against my lips, almost to himself. I pulled back just enough to look at him. What? Kyle shook his head, a faint, almost disbelieving smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Nothing, he said. Just didn't think this would actually happen. Yeah, I exhaled. Same. That earned me a short laugh. But it faded quickly, because neither of us moved away. We were still too close, still caught in it. And now there was no pretending it didn't mean something. Kyle's hand shifted slightly, fingers pressing a little firmer against my side, like he was grounding himself. You good? He asked again, softer this time. I nodded. Yeah. Then, after a second, you? He held my gaze. Yeah, he said, but there was something behind it. Not doubt. Just wait. This is gonna complicate things, I said quietly. Kyle huffed a small laugh. Everything already feels complicated. Fair. Another pause. But this one felt different, less tense, more real. Does anyone know? I asked. Kyle frowned slightly. Know what? This? I said, gesturing vaguely between us. He shook his head immediately. No, not even a second of hesitation. Have you? I stopped myself, then tried again. Has this happened before? That question hung heavier than I expected. Kyle's jaw tightened just a little. Then he shook his head again. No. I studied his face, making sure, because that mattered. Okay, I said, and weirdly, that made something in my chest settle. Kyle noticed. You believe me? He asked. Yeah, I said honestly. I do. That seemed to relax him more than anything else had. His shoulders dropped slightly, the tension easing just a bit. Good, he murmured. We stayed there for a second. Then his eyes dropped again, brief, but noticeable. And this time I didn't ignore it. You keep doing that, I said. Doing what? Looking at me like you're thinking about something. Kyle smirked faintly. I am thinking about something. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah? Wanna share? He hesitated. Actually hesitated. Which again wasn't like him. Depends, he said slowly. On what? On whether it's gonna freak you out. I let out a quiet laugh. After everything that just happened? I think we're past that. Kyle considered that, then nodded slightly. Fair. Another second passed. Then, I've wanted to do that for a while, he admitted. My stomach tightened again. The kiss? I asked. He shook his head. Not just that. That answer hit different. What then? I pressed. Kyle looked at me for a long moment, like he was deciding how much to say, how far to go. Just this, he said finally. Being this close. Not having to pretend I'm not thinking about it. Yeah. That one stayed with me, because it meant this wasn't just physical. It wasn't just about a moment. It had been sitting there, building, quietly. And now? I asked. Kyle's expression shifted again. More serious, more focused. Now I don't really want to stop, he said. My heart skipped. That a problem? He added, watching me carefully. I should have said yes. Should have slowed things down. Created distance. Something. But instead. No, I said. And just like that, we crossed another line. Kyle didn't waste time after that. He leaned in again, more confident now, like he finally knew where he stood. And this time, when he kissed me, there was no holding back. Not rushed. Not messy. Just certain. And the way he pulled me closer, the way his hands stayed steady like he didn't want to lose contact for even a second, it made one thing very clear. This wasn't temporary. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I realized something else too. Something way more dangerous. If we didn't stop this now, there was no way we were going back to how things were before. And the worst part? I wasn't sure I even wanted to. I didn't sleep after that. Not really. Even when things finally went quiet, when we stopped talking, stopped moving, just laying there in the same bed, I was wide awake. Because everything felt different now. Kyle was still close. Not as intense as before. Not like we were still caught in that moment, but close enough that I could feel him. His arm was still resting near me, not pulling away, not pretending like none of that just happened. And that alone said everything. You awake? He muttered after a while. Yeah. Yeah. Same. There was a small pause. Then he shifted slightly onto his back, staring up at the ceiling again like earlier, but this time, it didn't feel casual. Felt like he was thinking. Hard. This is weird, he said. I let out a quiet breath. Yeah. Another pause. But not bad weird, he added. I turned my head slightly to look at him. Yeah, I said. Not bad. That seemed to settle something between us. Not completely, but enough. What happens now? I asked. That was the question, right? The one neither of us had an answer to. Kyle huffed out a small laugh. No idea. Helpful. I'm serious, he said, glancing at me. I didn't exactly plan this out. Could have fooled me. That got a smirk out of him. Shut up. But the smile faded quickly, because the question was still there. hanging between us. You gonna act weird tomorrow? He asked suddenly. I frowned. Why would I? Kyle shrugged. People do that. Pretend something didn't happen because it's easier. I shook my head. I'm not pretending that didn't happen. Good. There was that word again. Simple. But it carried weight. What about you? I asked. Kyle looked at me, holding my gaze for a second longer than usual. I don't want to pretend either, he said. That answer felt bigger than it should have. But, he added, I also don't want to mess things up. There it was. The real concern. Mess what up? I asked quietly. Us, he said like it was obvious. That hit me harder than anything else he'd said tonight. Because it meant this whatever this was actually mattered to him. We already did, I said, half joking. Kyle shook his head immediately. No, not like that. He turned slightly toward me again, more serious now. I mean it, he said. I don't want to lose this. You. Yeah. That one stayed. You're not gonna lose me, I said. Kyle studied my face, like he was trying to decide if he believed that. Promise? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. That seemed to calm him down more than anything else. His shoulders relaxed, the tension easing just a little. Okay, he said quietly. We didn't say much after that. There wasn't really anything left to say. Not yet. But at some point, without even realizing it, I felt his hand shift again. Not like before. Not intense. Just finding mine. It was subtle, careful, like he was still testing it. I didn't pull away, and after a second, our fingers laced together. No words, no jokes, no pretending, just that. And somehow, that felt even more real than everything else that happened tonight. Because this wasn't about impulse, or curiosity, or late-night decisions. This felt like something that wasn't going away. And deep down, I think we both knew it. Morning came way too fast. I barely slept, and judging by the way Kyle groaned the second his alarm went off, neither did he. Turn that off? I muttered, half burying my face into the pillow. I'm trying, he said, voice rough, clearly not fully awake. After a few seconds of fumbling, the room went quiet again. But the silence this time, it wasn't the same as last night. It wasn't charged. It wasn't tense. It was awkward. I stayed still for a second, staring at the wall, trying to figure out how to act. Like nothing happened? Acknowledge it? Make a joke? Kyle beat me to it. You still here? He asked, voice quieter now. I snorted lightly. No, I left 2 hours ago. That got a small laugh out of him. Good, he said. I turned onto my back, finally looking at him. He was already looking at me. And yet, there it was again. That same look from last night. Not confusion. Not regret. Something else. Morning, I said. Morning. We held eye contact for a second too long. Then both looked away at the same time. Okay. This is weird, I said. Kyle huffed out a breath. Yeah, a little. Another pause. Then, but not in a bad way, he added quickly. I glanced back at him. Yeah, I said. You said that last night. Still true. That helped. A little. I sat up slowly, running a hand through my hair. So, we're just gonna act normal? Kyle leaned up on his elbow, watching me. What's normal? He asked. Good question. He studied me for a second. Then, I don't want to act like nothing happened, he said. That was direct. Very Kyle. Okay. I nodded. Then don't. Another pause. But this one felt easier. You hungry? He asked suddenly. I blinked. That's your follow-up? He shrugged. I'm starving. I let out a small laugh. Yeah, I could eat. Good. Come on. And just like that, we moved. Kitchen. Coffee. Food. Normal stuff. But it didn't feel normal. Not really. Because everything had a second layer now. Every glance. Every small movement. Like when he handed me a mug, and our fingers brushed for half a second longer than necessary. Or when he stood a little too close while reaching for something. Or when I caught him looking at me and this time he didn't look away. Stop doing that, I said. Doing what? He asked, not even pretending. Looking at me like that. Kyle smirked slightly. Like what? I shook my head. You know exactly what I mean. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Maybe I do, he said. Maybe I don't. I exhaled, trying to ignore the way my chest tightened. This is what I mean. You're acting different. That made his expression shift. Less teasing now. More serious. Yeah, he said. I am. I waited. Because things are different, he added. There it was. No pretending. No backing off. So what are we doing, Kyle? I asked, straight to the point. He didn't answer right away. Just watched me, thinking. I don't know yet, he said finally. But I know I don't want to go back to how it was before. That hit hard. Yeah, I asked quietly. He nodded. Yeah. I leaned back against the counter, mirroring him now. And what if this messes everything up? I asked. Kyle held my gaze. It might, he said. Honest. Too honest. But I think pretending this didn't happen would mess it up more, he added. He wasn't wrong. I ran a hand over my face, exhaling slowly. This is insane. Kyle smirked faintly. A little. Another pause. Then, but I don't regret it, he said. That one landed deep. I looked at him. Really looked this time. You're serious about this? I asked. Kyle didn't even hesitate. Yeah. No joke. No smirk. Just real. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't just about last night anymore. This was about what came next. And whether we were actually ready for it. That whole day felt off. Not bad. Just different. Kyle acted normal. Too normal, almost. Cooking, joking, throwing random comments like nothing had changed, but every now and then, he'd look at me like he was remembering everything all over again. And every time that happened, I felt it. We ended up going out later. Just a quick run, food, gym, the usual routine. Except it wasn't usual anymore. At the gym, things got weird in a completely different way. Spot me? Kyle said, laying back on the bench. Got you? I replied, stepping behind him. I'd done this 100 times before. Same position. Same distance. Nothing new. Except now, it was. My hands hovered near the bar. But I was way more aware of him than I should have been. The way his shirt stretched across his chest. The way his breathing changed as he pushed the weight up. The tension in his arms. Focus? He muttered, glancing up at me. I scoffed. I am focused. He smirked slightly. Sure you are. That look again. That knowing look. Shut up and lift, I said. Kyle laughed under his breath and pushed through another rep. But yeah, that was the problem. Everything we used to do casually, it wasn't casual anymore. After the gym, we grabbed food and ended up back at his place again. Same couch, same setup, but the air felt heavier. You staying again? Kyle asked, not looking at me this time. I hesitated, just for a second. Do you want me to? I asked. He looked over immediately. Yeah. No hesitation. And that answer? It did something to me. Okay, I said. Simple. But it wasn't. We didn't talk about it after that. Didn't overanalyze. Didn't label anything. But we both knew. Night came around again. And this time, there was no pretending. When we got into bed, there was no awkward distance. No turning away. No accidental contact. Kyle looked at me like he had something to say, then stopped himself. What? I asked. He shook his head. Nothing. Yeah, okay. I shifted slightly closer. On purpose. His eyes dropped for a second. Then back up. You're doing that on purpose now, he said quietly. Yeah, I admitted. No point denying it. There was a pause. Then he moved closer too, matching me. And just like that, we were right back where we were last night. Only this time, it wasn't confusing. It was intentional. You sure about this? He asked again. Different tone now. Not uncertain. Just serious. Yeah, I said. And I meant it. Kyle nodded slowly, like he needed to hear it one more time. Then, okay. That same word again. but this time felt final. His hand found mine first, not rushed, not hesitant, just natural. And when our fingers intertwined again, felt familiar, like it already belonged there. You know this changes things? I said quietly. Kyle looked at me. Yeah. And you're okay with that? He didn't even pause. Yeah. I held his gaze, searching for doubt, for hesitation, anything. There was none. Good, I said. And that's when he leaned in again. No hesitation, no second guessing, just certainty. And as everything blurred together again, the closeness, the tension, the way everything felt heavier and more real than it should have. One thought hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't just happening to us anymore. We were choosing it. And once you choose something like that, there's no going back. There's a moment when everything stops feeling like a moment and starts feeling like something real. That's what that second night was. Not the tension, not the closeness, not even the fact that we chose it again. It was what came after. Because this time we didn't just fall into silence. We stayed awake, lying there still close but calmer now, like the intensity had settled into something deeper. Kyle was the first to speak. Hey, yeah. There was a pause. Then, this isn't just a one-time thing for me. My chest tightened slightly, not in a bad way, just real. I figured, I said quietly. He shifted a little, turning more toward me. I mean it, he added. I'm not doing this and then pretending tomorrow that it didn't happen. I know, I said. And you? He asked. I didn't answer right away, not because I didn't know, but because saying it out loud made it real in a different way. I don't want that either, I admitted. Kyle held my gaze, and for the first time since all of this started, he actually looked relieved. Okay, he said. There it was again, that word. But this time, felt like a decision. What does that mean, though? I asked. Like, for us. Kyle exhaled slowly. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I know I don't want to go back to pretending I don't feel anything. That word again. Feel. Yeah, I said. We stayed quiet for a second. Then I added. We probably should take this slow. Kyle let out a quiet laugh. After everything that just happened? I smirked slightly. You know what I mean. He nodded. Yeah, I do. Another pause. But this one, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't confusing. Felt steady. I've never done this before, he said after a while. I know. I'm probably gonna mess something up. I shrugged slightly. Then we figure it out. Kyle looked at me. Really looked this time. Yeah, he said. We will. And somehow, that felt like enough. The next morning was different. Not awkward. Not tense. Just new. We didn't avoid each other. Didn't pretend. Didn't overdo it either. Just small things. Coffee together. A glance that lasted a second longer. A quiet "you good?" That meant more than it used to. And when I was about to leave, that's when it happened. I grabbed my keys, heading for the door. Text me when you get home, Kyle said. Yeah, I will. I reached for the handle, then paused. Something pulled me back. I turned around, and he was already looking at me. Same look, but softer now. Hey, he said. I stepped closer without thinking. Hey, I replied. There was no hesitation this time. No confusion. No questioning. Just something quiet, certain. And in that moment, it finally made sense. I didn't think he was straight anymore. And honestly, I didn't care what label it was. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just curiosity. It was real. And as I walked out that door, phone already buzzing with a message from him before I even reached my car, I realized something I hadn't expected at all. I thought he was straight, but the truth was, he was just waiting. And somehow, so was I.